Hi, my name is Drew and I'm going to be walking you through the R-Pod here today. Starting up right up front here, we have your electric tongue jack. Has a switch there, gives you a light. If you are backing up to the camper, gives you a point of reference, or if you're doing any uncoupling, coupling, again in the dark, it's going to help light your way there. Other than that, you have up or down labeled switch here that is to raise or lower the coupler and tongue. If you encounter a power loss situation, you can go ahead and remove that rubber plug. That's going to expose the drive nut. You can go ahead and use this crank handle then to, again, move that up or down. Directly behind that, we have a 20-pound propane cylinder here. Open and close valve on the top, held in place with a tension band here and a little thumb screw. So I find most people are somewhat familiar with the operation of these tanks. Again, that open and close valve on the top. When it does come to get it refilled, you can go ahead and loosen the screw here, unscrew the pigtail here, pull it out, go ahead and take it and have it refilled or exchanged. That is covered by this propane cover that's going to protect it from the sun, any rocks, things like that. This fits over top, and before I do put that over top, you'll see you have a thumb screw here. That's going to poke through the hole here on the back side, and then again that's held on by this wing nut here. Behind that we have a brand new Interstate D-cycle battery. Biggest thing with this is a small amount of maintenance that it carries. What that is going to entail is 2 or 3 times a year we're going to pull these vent panels up off of each side. We're going to refill with distilled water as necessary. So there is a clear marked water line in there, and we do just want to maintain that water line through the hottest months of the summer. Coming around here to the corner, we have stabilizer jacks on all 4 corners of the unit. Those are for stabilization, they're not for leveling. So leveling from front to back is going to be done with the main tongue jack up front, and leveling from left to right is going to be done with the tires and your choice of a leveling kit. So once you are fairly certain of your level, within 3 degrees of being level, you can go ahead and run these down. They again have that 3/4 inch drive nut on the end. Crank down until you make contact with the pavement, maybe a 1/4 turn more just to sure everything up. Same on the way up, not something that you really want to kind of hammer down on or put a lot of effort into lifting the trailer. They are light gauge metal, they're not designed for that operation. We have your potable water fill here. That is how you fill the onboard water tank. You'll stick a garden hose directly in there, fill it up to it overflows. Once it does overflow, go ahead and cap it off. This is not naturally pressurized, so you do need to use the onboard 12-volt water pump to draw that up to the fixtures and make that water usable. So this would be your off-grid option or your boondocking option. Your RV park or destination option is going to be this city water connection here. City water, unlike the potable water, is pressurized directly from the line. More often than not, it is overpressurized. So it is very important to use a water pressure regulator. This water pressure regulator reduces that pressure in between 40 and 50 psi. This unit is rated up to about 75 psi, so if this regulator happens to not give you as much flow as you would like, you can increase that slightly. Just make sure you do keep it below 75 psi. Now when you go to use this water pressure regulator, we're going to hook that directly onto the spigot side, and then of course the spigot side of the hose onto that, and then we thread this on the trailer bound connection by rotating that trailer bound connection. So, going down low here, we have your drain right off of the tank here. So this is your freshwater drain. That's how you drain the potable water tank. So your boondocking option, your onboard water tank, you're going to drain that by unscrewing that plug. Generally, you can just keep that hand tight and it will, of course, allow you to keep less tools with the unit. Just make sure you're not going to be leaking any water from there. Coming down here to your sewer outlet connection, The way that they do this, or Forest River does it on this particular model, is they separate the gray water in the black water dump valves. What we are looking at here is the black water dump valve. Black water is anything that comes from the toilet. Any solid body waste is going to be considered black water. So when utilizing the black water tank in the dump valve here, this is your valve. It's called a Bladex valve. As it sits, it is in the closed position. To open it, it's just going to be a 6-inch pull, in this case towards the rear of the camper. Now your black water tank, your black water valve, excuse me, needs to be in the closed position. Anytime you are using the unit, no matter if you are hooked up to full-time septic or not. We want to keep the contents of that black water tank in as wet or flowing condition as we can. That way it will evacuate the tank and easily flow down the drain. So keep that valve in the closed position, use the monitor panel on the inside, and only dump as necessary. Bayonet fitting here, your sewage hose is going to connect the very same way this cap comes off. So you have 4 prongs on the outside of the actual bayonet fitting. You go ahead and put that keyhole in the halfway position, give it a 1/4-inch turn, that's going to lock it on. And again, even when you are hooked up to full-time septic, you do need to go ahead and keep that valve closed and only dump as necessary. While we're here at the slide, we're going to talk about slide out maintenance first of all, and then overall unit maintenance after that. With all the maintenance, or most of the maintenance, I should say, structural maintenance, we're going to want to get on a 90-day maintenance schedule. So what that's going to entail specifically for the slide is once every 90 days, you're going to lubricate these tracks. You have these tracks top to bottom, left to right. What you're going to use is a dry silicone lubricant. We're going to spray those tracks down, again, top to bottom, left to right. We're going to run the slide in and out 2 or 3 times to distribute that lubricant, and then you're good for the next 90 days. Also, at that same time, we're going to use a RV grade seal conditioner here on these seals. Now, these seals do run all the way around the slide, and we do have a set of seals on the inside because that slide seals in both directions. Again, every 90 days, we're going to spray that seal conditioner on these seals. Follow, of course, the directions on the can, but most of them will, you'll spray it down, leave it for a set amount of time, and wipe off the excess, and then you're good to go again for 90 days. So that pretty much entails the slide out maintenance here. Now let's talk about the overall structural maintenance. Again, on that same 90-day maintenance schedule, we do want to inspect all the seals of the unit. So anywhere where 2 pieces come together, they use some sort of sealant. Here on the body, they generally will use a 100% silicone product. You can source that, of course, at any RV dealer, any hardware store is going to carry a 100% silicone. And you generally will use a black and a clear, and it looks like for the most of this stuff, they're using a black silicone. So every 90 days, you're going to inspect every place, again, where 2 pieces come together. If you see any degradation in your sealants, we're going to touch those up. And in this case, you remove the bead of silicone and apply a new one. On the roof, again, on that same 90-day maintenance schedule, you are going to want to inspect those sealants as well. They differ from the silicone that we use here on the body. What you have up there is a self-leveling RV grade lap sealant, and that's what you are going to want to use to touch up any cracks, if you see it peeling up or coming loose. You'll of course want to do a spot seal for a certain amount of time, and then of course many years down the road you'll remove all of that old sealant and lay new sealant down. And again, that's an RV grade lap sealant. You'll source that from generally an RV dealer or an RV parts house is what you're going to have to go to get that. Moving on, tires, lug nuts. Lug nuts have been torqued to 100 foot-pounds here in the shop. Manufacturer recommends a retorque procedure. That's the first 15, 25, 50, and 100 miles of initial travel. They want you to go ahead and retorque those lug nuts down. And further from there on after, every time you move the camper or the start of each trip from there on after, you do need to go ahead and retorque those, make sure they are maintaining that 100 foot-pound torque. Next up is going to be tire pressure. This unit runs a 65 PSI tire pressure. We want to maintain that tire pressure. That's the max tire pressure rating on the sticker as well as on the sidewall of the tire. And with any trailer tires, you run them at the max. That's going to give you the highest flexibility in terms of weight rating, whether you're completely full or completely empty. That 65 PSI is a good number. So that's where we're looking to carry them. Moving down further, we have your gray water dump valve. Of course, doesn't differ much from the black water valve that we already talked about. As you can see, they are color coded in case you forget. Gray for gray water, black for black water. Operation is going to be the exact same. Not much to speak of on that. Cable satellite inlet here. If you are utilizing a park cable service, aftermarket satellite package, either one of those are going to be, this would be the inlet for either one of those. It is a standard RG6 cable fitting, pass-through connection to the designated TV area of the camper. So this would be the inlet. The outlet is again at the TV. We have your 30 amp 110 volt power supply here. Only plugs into the camper one way. If we go ahead and pull this out, you can see it is only accommodated one way. When plugging it in, of course, line up the right prongs with the right holes. Give it an 1/8 inch turn to the right, that locks it in. Then we do have a secondary collar here to screw down and lock it in further. Rooftop ladder access here. This model year of our pods does have a full walk-on roof. And it's nice to have the ladder, again, for that 90-day maintenance schedule. You should be up there once every 90 days. We have your furnace vent here. That is an exhaust vent. So, of course, number one, let's let it exhaust. You're not going to want to restrict that airflow. You're not going to want to store anything in front of it. It does blow very hot air when it is on. It also is a very large intrusion point for mud daubers, flying insects, things of that nature. They do love to crawl in, make their dirt nest or their wasp nest directly as close to the flow of propane as they can. So we want to see all of these propane appliances with, screened off to keep those insects from nesting again in those cavities. If we can get low here, we're going to take a look at the low point drains. Those are the lowest point in the unit's plumbing. That's how you're going to drain everything in between water source and fixture is going to be drained with those low point drains. They do have valves there, so just open up the valves. You're going to want to get, you're going to want to drain the unit of all of its water anytime it is going to be stored for more than 7 days. So number one, we talked about when it comes to draining it is going to be that freshwater drain. We saw that right up front. Next, we're going to come back here and we're going to open up those low point drains to drain all of that in between plumbing. And lastly, the last thing we do need to drain is going to be the water heater. Very important on how we do it and the steps that the order of the steps. Number one, of course, give it ample time to cool down, a lot longer than you may think. Generally, I recommend people 8 hours. Once you are fairly certain of the temperature, we're going to go ahead and relieve the pressure. So you can either use the pressure relief valve here on the water heater. It is a little bit troublesome. It kind of makes a mess here over the door and things like that. You can always use any spigot in the unit, any fixture, and just open up that hot side of any fixture of the unit. That is going to bleed off that excess pressure. Again, it is very important that we bleed off the excess pressure because the next step is going to be actually removing this drain plug here. Now, if we have failed to depressurize the unit properly, it's going to spit that metal drain plug, 20 feet in front of you. So, of course, depressurize it first, and then we can come here and drain this. So this is an 1 1/16 drain plug here. After you depressurize it, you can use a ratchet and extension. Go ahead and pull that drain plug out. It's going to expel the rest of the water that is in the tank. Now, this drain plug does pull double duty. It's not only a drain plug, it is also an anode rod. What an anode rod does is it's a magnesium rod, acts like a magnet for hard water deposits, calcification, things like that. It is a consumable part. Expect to get a year or two in between changing anode rods. Again, you should be well aware of the condition of it, because you're going to be staring it in the face every time you drain the water heater. And again, the water heater does need to be drained separate of the system, and you're going to be draining the entire system anytime the unit is going to be in storage for more than 7 days. Other than that, the manufacturer does recommend that you do prime the water heater before lighting it, because it will be empty when you do start your camping trip. To do that, you just, of course, turn the hot side of the spigot on. That is going to feed 6 gallons of water into the heater here until before you see it at the fixture. So initially you're going to turn on that fixture. That flow is going to be very bubbly, very spitty, very interrupted. As that flow normalizes, generally that is the indicator that you have pumped 6 gallons of water into the water heater and you are clear for takeoff, ready to light. Other than that, we have a toggle switch here. It is marked on and off. For this particular model, that's how you're going to turn on the 110 volt electric heating element in this water heater. Water heater is dual source, runs on the 110 volt heating element there, as well as propane gas with 12 volt ignition. And technically it can run on both as well without any issues. So, biggest problem I find with that toggle switch is when people utilize that, the electric side, generally they'll go through that draining process that we just spoke of and will forget to turn that toggle switch off. So make sure that is off or in the off position before going ahead and draining that water heater. Also, again, we have some openings here for the water heater, and again, since it is a propane and burning appliance, we do want to make sure that we screen those off, keep mud daubers, flying insects, again, from nesting inside the appliance. And the same does go for the refrigerator vent here as well. That we're going to be looking at these openings here. So we're going to screen those off. And again, we're just looking to keep those mud daubers, flying insects out. Other than keeping the bugs out, not much maintenance. Not much maintenance with the refrigerator, especially here on the back side. Give it a visual inspection a couple times a year. Make sure nothing's gotten in. Visually, make sure everything looks okay. And you should be good to go. All your controls are on the front side of the unit. So we're going to put your tabs down first to put this door on. So the tab seat first. And you got some square holes you need to line up. And sometimes are easier than others to make it happen. But once you are fully seated in there, you do just give these a slight turn. Backside of a key or a coin generally will make things a little easier for you. And something like that. So, cool. Coming on here to the other side, we have your door handle here. Standard RV style handrail is going to lift out and seat in the out position. Some people like to fold it against the door when they're traveling, but does seat in that out position. So, steps are up and in, so we fold that up, put it in. Porch light, awning, speakers, things like that. We'll get to the operation or the switches for those on the inside. We have your black tank flush here. Now this black tank flush corresponds with a jet inside the black water tank. It is specifically designed to help blast off compounded body waste, toilet waste, things like that. Biggest limitation to the black tank flush is going to be there is no check valve or anything to keep that water in that tank, especially when it is fed through the black tank flush. So what that means is if you hook up a hose to this and leave it for an extended period of time, the path of least resistance, believe it or not, is the rooftop septic vents. What's going to happen is that wastewater is going to overflow that tank, shoot right up to the roof, and come out the septic vents. So what I recommend to my customers, if you're by yourself, 5 minutes with water rushing in here before relieving the valve, the black water valve on the other side, what we talked about. Or if you have a friend with you, they can go ahead and watch the monitor panel on the inside. Fill it up. Once you're certain that it's full but not over full, you can go ahead and drain it on the other side. Other than that, it is it's a really good feature. It is going to keep their sensors and your tank sensors and your tank in tip-top shape. It's going to be my recommendation that you go ahead and utilize that black tank flush anytime anytime you're coming back in for storage. So not something you can overdo. So as much as you can, go ahead and flush that black water tank out. We have a couple 110 all-weather outlets here, so just some standard 15 amp outlets, nothing too crazy there. We have the outside kitchen here. It utilizes a series of quick connect fittings, not only for the water, but for the propane line there for the cooktop. That is going to look something like this. So you have your propane line here, and we have your propane connection on the tongue here. So once I remove that dust cap, we have this locking collar here. So if I slide that locking collar back and insert the male end here, once I am fully inserted, that's going to lock on there. And then we have a little valve here that we need to turn on to push that propane through the line. So that's that side, the trailer side of it. And then I take this other side, which should look somewhat familiar because it is that same connection that we utilized back there. And on the underside, you'll see again the male side of that fitting. You go ahead and insert this fully, and it can be problematic when you're not looking at it. And then you again have that valve. So once I open up that valve, we have propane running up to the cooktop there, and we can go ahead and utilize that. Now when it comes to actually lighting this, this is kind of a very basic camp stove. No spark or igniter. We're going to turn that to light, and there's no, it's not like a pilot. You don't need to hold it down. So once we turn that to light, that propane is flowing. We're going to take a long stem barbecue lighter and put our flame directly onto the burner. From there, you of course can adjust it anywhere down the road there. This whole kitchen area, if this is not something that you think you will be using too often, you can actually remove this whole thing. There is a little bar latch underneath here. If you undo that bar latch, the whole thing's going to come on out. Storing it, you gotta disconnect the propane line here before you can feed that back up. So once we do that, this is going to easily slide back in. And again, we have another bar latch here that's going to keep that from going anywhere when you're going down the road. Part of that kind of outside kitchen area is going to be your sprayer hose here. That does utilize a very similar quick connect fitting. So you have that locking collar. If you slide that locking collar back, that's going to allow you to connect or disconnect there. That just about covers it here on the outside. We're going to hop on the inside, start going over those features and appliances, and we'll see you in there. All right, so right here inside the door, a lot going on, but we're going to start right up here with your main switches. Coming in the door, you have an interior light switch that's going to just about cover all of the interior lights here on the camper. Now they do have buttons on each fixture to turn those on and off independently if you want to, choose which ones come on and off with the switch here. We have your porch light switch here. That's that amber colored light we saw on the outside. And then we have your LED light strip there for your awning. So there's a tube awning on this particular model, and you will have a LED light strip across the outside of that. It's on a lighted switch because when it's rolled in, you can't see those lights. Slide room in and out switch here. Hold that switch in the position you're trying to go. Hold that until this slide stops. So either fully in or fully out. With this Schwintek slide system, we want to avoid short bursts. It is 2 independently geared motors. If you tend to operate it in short bursts or halfway, it can actually bind that slide in its opening, and then it's not going to come in or out. So fully in, fully out is going to be best suited for that slide out room. And then we have that awning switch here. It is a momentary switch there, so it does stop once we take our hand off of the switch there. So, also coming right here again on this side of the wall, we have your water pump switch here. That's of course going to draw that water up from the tank into the fixtures and make that water usable again if you are in that off-grid scenario. We have the propane switch here for your water heater. Now when we were on the outside, we saw the 110 volt heating element switch outside. This is going to be for that propane side. So you see I push this switch on. This fault light comes right on with that switch. That fault light is going to stay on until the water heater lights. So you saw it turned off. That means that water heater is lit. Now, if you come back, say you flip this switch, come back 5 minutes later and that light's still on, that means the water heater has not lit and has since timed out. So it will go through 3 lighting cycles. If it does not light by the end of that 3rd lighting cycle, it's going to stop trying. So in that scenario, generally the culprit is either you have the valve on top of your propane tank closed, you're out of gas, or since your propane is at the front of the camper and your water heater is at the rear, oftentimes the gas hasn't made its way through the line to the appliance yet. In the event that happens, you come back 5 minutes later and that fault light is on, we're just going to turn that switch off, flip it back on. It will recycle. Generally, as long as you have corrected the issue, it will light on the first time of that 2nd cycle. So other than those switches, we also have your monitor panel here, or convenience center. It goes by multiple names. This is going to give you a real-time readout of where your tanks sit in level of full. The more light you see, the fuller it is. You have your battery indicator here, which is low, fair, good, charged, and then of course empty, 1/3, 2/3, and full for your tanks. You can see your battery's full. Battery's going to be full, read full anytime you are plugged into shore power. That converter is putting 13.5 volts directly to the battery. And again, going to read full. To get a true readout, you need to unplug from shore power and then push the tester here, and it's going to give you a more realistic gauge of where your battery is. And then of course fresh water, black water, gray water. These RPods, they do come pre-wired for solar. So if you were to add the Go Power rooftop solar up top, this would be where you would mount your charge controller. So essentially this is just where those wires transition to hook up that sort of stuff. Flipping around here, we'll start off here with the refrigerator. On this particular model, your controls are going to be on the inside. You have a on-off switch here and a light indicator. So since they've moved this eyebrow panel from the outside to the inside, they give you a little speaker, which is nice. So it's going to yell at you if you have any issues in operation of the appliance. So we turn it on. It generally will kick us right into this auto mode. That is really your only option. Your auto, when you are in auto, it's going to of course default to AC voltage. If it does not find AC voltage, it's going to automatically start lighting on gas. Now your only other option other than running it in auto is going to be running it in standalone gas. When it is on standalone gas, as you can see, there is no indicator, there's no light that tells you that it's in gas other than the position of the switch. You can see that's kind of sticking out a little bit now. And as the label here is going to denote that we are running off gas. Now, if it fails to light on gas, it's not only going to illuminate this check light, but it's going to give you that sound that you heard when I turned it on. So, other than that, it is pretty straightforward. These handles are going to pull out, and then they allow you to open it. That's just a little lock there that keeps, if you have some weight here in the door, keeps that door closed when you're going down the road. So. Down low here we have your intervac here. Now these RPods don't come standard with the hose attachment here. So if you like this and want to upgrade it, you can of course add that hose attachment. That's going to make it far more usable, but it is very usable in this condition here. We have this drawer here, and if we of course, the idea being, if you sweep your floor with a regular old broom, you bring your pile of dust here, and then when you open this up, it's going to go ahead and suck that dust up there. Now, there is a bag back behind here that will, of course, eventually need to be changed. To do so, you're going to peel this panel off, so you'll get a flat-bladed screwdriver and actually kind of pry that out. Back behind there, again, you're going to see a standard sweeper bag that is, replaceable. And then again, let me kind of get out of the way here. We have your fuse panel breaker box. Everything here on the right side is going to be automotive blade style fuses, so those are going to be for your 12-volt appliances. They are labeled here on the door. And then everything on this side is going to be for your 110-volt appliances. Those are your standard resettable light switch style breaker, and again, labeled right there on the door. So you have access here, so your water heater is essentially on the back side of all of these appliances. You have a little access door here. Now, the reason why you have an access door there is that's going to lead you to the bypass valves. Very important to bypass the water heater anytime you're doing a full winterization process. What that is going to entail is going to be draining all the water from the unit like we spoke of, and then refilling with an RV grade antifreeze. Now, in this scenario, we of course don't want to pump that RV grade antifreeze into the water heater, so it's important for us to bypass it. So you'll find two valves back there. We're going to turn those valves in the off position. That's going to tee off the plumbing to the water heater before it gets to the water heater. And again, we'll only do that if we're going to be storing the unit somewhere where it's going to be in freezing temperatures. Fire extinguisher here, right inside the door. Does have a green test tab here. That's how we know that it is good to go. If I push that green tab down and it springs back, still life in it. If not, it's time to pull out and replace. Now, we do want to test our safety equipment every time we take the unit out. Make sure it is in good working order. That's not only the fire extinguisher, the carbon monoxide, propane leak detector, as well as your smoke alarm, and we'll kind of get to those further on in the presentation. Here in the kitchen, not too terribly much to speak of. We of course have your sink, your sink and your countertop extender there. We do have pressure via the water pump to these fixtures. We have the very same cooktop in a slightly different package that we saw outside. So lighting it is going to be the very same. But other than that, the only difference is with this, you have this tempered glass top. We want to make sure that we do let this cool down before we close this lid. I have seen where those have cracked under extreme heat. You have your light and your fan here for the hood. Again, pretty standard stuff, just like you're going to find at home. We have a light switch here for the under cabinet lighting, which is nice. And then we also have your microwave, convection, and grill. This is a three-way appliance here. These things are awesome. So they not only run as as you would assume to like a microwave, but they also have a heating element up top. You can run them kind of like a toaster oven, or utilize this cooking rack here and run them convection. Controls are very kind of microwave-esque in design. You have your modes up top here. You can select them, then you select a preheated temperature here. Of course, does have its own service manual. Is very easy to use and very user-friendly. We have your furnace blower motor here, and we'll of course get to the operation of that on the thermostat, but that is the location. This is where all your heat from the unit is going to come from. So it's going to come here and blow back to the bed. Large pantry here. I love this usable space that they have in here. Ton of room with adjustable shelves. Not too terribly much to speak of, but it is an awesome addition. Now we also have a jackknife sofa here. This does make a secondary sleeping area. We'll go ahead and move this forward. Very easy to use, but you just lift from the bottom. And if I have enough room, that will allow that to fold down. Again, give you a secondary safety, secondary sleeping area. You have this strap here to strap the bed or the tabletop if you choose to store it on top of the couch there. You can do so, although in my experience, once the slide comes in, there's not really anywhere for this tabletop to go, but of course, make yourself comfortable. Use the strap if you would like to. If that's going to make you feel better or more secure, go ahead and do so. Of course, above that, we have your emergency exit there. It is clearly marked. In the event of emergency, if you are particularly motivated enough, you can go ahead and unlatch these bottom latches. That will allow that full window to swing open, kind of like a doggy door. Again, if you're particularly motivated enough and your exit is blocked, you can go ahead and hop out that door, which is nice. Tabletop here is just a standard card table, folding legs. So they just literally have a tension bar. You push on that tension bar, they're going to fold right in. Again, you can feel free to store the table up on the couch. If you move it to the forward position, it's not going to go anywhere. You can also store it under the bed, and we're going to show you that under bed storage here at the end. I'm going to hop here into the bathroom. Not really too terribly much to speak of in the bathroom. One thing that goes without saying is you do have your main GFI plug here. This controls all the receptacles inside the unit. So just like in your bathroom at home, if any of these outlets were to get overloaded, they all follow suit, and this is going to be that reset point here. So if you see the green light, you're on, you're good to go. We also have a fan here. Fan will be in the locked position, so you pull down on this knob first. Once you pull down, it's going to allow you to go ahead and turn it. Once you go ahead and open it up, you can go ahead and choose a fan speed here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 fan speeds. Very important that we do remember to go ahead and close this before going down the road. I like to make the joke that it's something that you generally only forget once, because it's probably not going to be there when you get to where you're going. So once we are fully closed, go ahead and push that up till you hear that click. That's going to go ahead and lock it in. Light switch, of course, we have a button right on the fixture. All of these fixtures have that button. We also do have a switch here outside the door to turn that on or off. Toilet. Get your chemical out of there. Toilet's going to be a light press to fill up the bowl, full press to flush. Now, we do want to keep water in the toilet. That is going to, of course, help keep those bad smells down. Keeping the water in the toilet in conjunction with a deodorizing product is going to help keep things nice and smelling good. Keep in mind that you do want to use a single ply RV grade toilet paper, and also if you would like to, you can go ahead and use a tissue dissolver in conjunction with that deodorizer to again help for any compounding issues in that black water tank. Really not too terribly much to speak of. Otherwise, in here, of course, you have the shower curtain here. Has a little magnetic strip there to keep it closed when you're using it. Has a nice bow in it. Give you some room for your wings there when you're washing your hair. Standard RV style shower head here. What that means is it just has an on-off for water flow, so you don't have to change your mix down here. And it's going to help conserve hot water. Again, 6 gallons of water doesn't translate to a extremely long shower, so you'll probably find yourself turning that water on and off quite a few times. Pocket door. So this is going to be strapped in here. That's going to keep it from swinging when you're going down the road. You have a magnet here, and that's a very strong magnet. It's really nice. Keeps that nice and secure. Really liked the addition of these pocket doors on this particular model year. So down low, we have your carbon monoxide LP leak detector. Again, that's part of your safety equipment. We do want to test that every time before we take the unit out. It does have a test button on it functions very much like a smoke alarm. Does have a scale written out on it, and it tells you which gas it's sensing by the flashes and colors of the lights. So if that starts yelling at you, just look in the readout, see what gas it's sensing, and of course follow suit from there. Again, something you want to test out every time you take the unit out. While we're talking about that, let's go ahead and talk about this smoke alarm. Same thing. This one, however, runs on a 9-volt battery, just like at home, very much as to what you're used to. Your carbon monoxide LP leak detector is going to be wired into the 12-volt section of the camper, so there is no battery to change on that. It's actually going to indicate to you if your overall battery voltage is getting too low. It's just going to let you know that you are about to lose a very important safety feature. So, thermostat here, you're going to control your air conditioner as well as your furnace on one single thermostat unit. This is kind of, these buttons are touchscreen. They can be finicky, and it doesn't make it work better if you push harder. So if sometimes it's not as responsive as you may like, but just go ahead and hit it again and it'll be fine. So once I hit the mode button, it's going to take me into the first selection or first options, and that's going to be fan speed. Now we're talking about air conditioner fan speed here. Just like at home, if I go to either low or high fan, that fan's going to run indefinitely whether or not the temperature has been reached on the thermostat. So to keep it right with us, responding with where we want it, we're going to keep it on auto. So I'm going to confirm that selection there. It's going to take us into air conditioner mode there. From there, of course, we have up or down on the thermostat, just like any other thermostat. If I hit it one more time, it's going to take us into furnace mode there. Again, up or down operation is going to control the temperature. Generally, you may have heard that blower motor kick on. Blower motor kicks on immediately. 16 seconds after that, it ignites. By that 30-second mark, it's producing noticeable heat. And basically that's it. So next selection is going to be off. So you, again, control both heat and air from that standard thermostat. Air conditioners up top here. We have a couple louvers here if we want to push that air directly down. Or again, we have louvers on each side. We can directionalize that anywhere. Really, we can push it anywhere we need to. Now there is a cleanable filter or washable filter underneath this grating here. So again, use your flat blade screwdriver, pry that grating off carefully. You're going to see a netted filter there. Rinse it out in the sink, let it dry, and then of course replace it up there. We'll talk about this bed area, the bed, the cabinets, things like that, and then we're going to swing over here and talk about the TV. You have a switch here. It lights up those cabinets, obviously. Very beautiful feature, but nothing too crazy. On the underside, we have that underbed storage we spoke of. Tabletop would fit nice there if you do need to store it. Also on each side of the bed, we have not only USB ports, but we also have 110 volt outlets as well. If you need to charge phones, run CPAP machines, you can do so on either side of the bed. Now coming over to the TV, of course, when you're going down the road, it's going to be buckled in. So you would unbuckle that. That will allow that TV to go ahead and swing out there into the living area. If you're sitting there on the couch, you can go ahead and watch it. But main reason for me to move that TV out of the way is I wanted to go ahead and show you your antenna booster plate here. Now, on top of the unit, on the roof, there's going to be a omnidirectional digital over-the-air television antenna. To turn that antenna on, we just need to push that button. You see the red light, that means the antenna is on. Go ahead and do a channel search on the television. It's going to seek out your best signal and, of course, bring in any digital TV from there. Now, if you are utilizing the part cable side of that outside hookup that we talked about, those share that same line. So this shares that same line as the inlet that we saw on the outside. If we are utilizing a part cable service, we need to make sure that booster's off. That's going to free up that signal so that cable can bleed through that line. So, and then we have your stereo here. This particular unit is AM/FM radio, Bluetooth enabled, USB, has HDMI inlet as well as USB inlet and 3.5 millimeter inlet. This can communicate with the television as well. So if we were to insert a streaming service here in the HDMI port, it is going to send it right over to the television. Other than that, all your modes are going to be up front here. And we have zones. Zones 1, Zone 2. Of course, Zone 1 is going to be the inside of the camper. Zone 2 is going to be the outside. You have your presets here. Again, very, very kind of basic kind of head unit, but will work very well for you. I think the last thing to speak of is going to be the windows. So all of the windows, except for the emergency exit, are going to be the exact same. You have a slider style window. So you have this locking tab. If we were to try to open the window, we need to pull that tab up. That releases that locking mechanism, and then we can go ahead and slide the window open. And then your privacy shade is just going to be a pull shade. You go ahead and pull that shade down, and that's it. So it is very much held by friction, or tension, I should say. And these loosen up as time goes on. You can always retension it. You don't need to bring it to us. You can unscrew this screw slightly, pull a little bit tighter, pull some more string through, throw another knot in there, and that's going to, of course, keep this nice and taut. So, that just about covers it here on the inside. I don't believe I missed anything. If you do have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We can generally walk you through most of this stuff over the phone or clarify it for you if need be. But thank you very much and enjoy your camper.